I think this is amazing. This is one of the most unique train tracks that I've seen set up. It's really detailed. It has a lot of realistic details to it, and I'm just really amazed at how the hard work has paid off. And to see it in front of me and being worked on, I am really impressed. Good morning. This is an amazing train track. On average, how long do you think it would take you to set this entire track up?
It takes about 2 hours.
About 2 hours. That is a while, but this looks amazing. How long have you been a member of the Visalia train group?
About 3 years now. Yeah.
3 years. What made you decide to join this awesome group?
They had their layout set up at the mall over in Visalia, and my grandson and I went by and saw it, and we had such a good time, and so I got involved in it, and I'm doing it at home also. I've got a layout at home now, so and enjoying it with my grandsons. Now I have three of them that are enjoying it, and it's awesome. Have a good time.
What is your favorite part about this and bringing your grandson on as well?
The look on his face on teaching him the patience of building a model from scratch and then letting him see what he's accomplished. So, and it's so real. I used to work for the railroad, and that was the other draw. It's the technology and stuff on the equipment and stuff. The detail is just so much now. It's almost like the real thing.
Yes. How long have you been a member of the Visalia train group?
Close to 28 years.
Wow, 28 years. And what would you think is the most challenging aspect of being a part of this group and setting up train tracks?
I've never considered it a challenge, but a pleasure.
That is amazing. And what is your greatest pleasure about doing this?
Being among a lot of good friends.
I've been a member of the club, I think, for about 6 years when I moved here. I've been a model railroader since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
Mostly built by myself, and it's fun to have a group. It's a lot of different challenges in a big layout like this, when you have to try to get everything to work, especially when you show it for somebody. My railroad, if it doesn't work, if I show it to somebody, they know, okay, that's what's happened. And everything runs perfect when you have nobody looking.
That is absolutely
Proof
true.
that a second set of eyes is always good.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you all so much for sharing that with us. Now, this train track is really detailed. What is your favorite part about any part of this train track?
Oh, it's just everything. The older members created these little 2x2s through the years, and then we put them all together, and it's the memories of the people that we've had in the club. You know, some of these people have passed on, and we have their memories.
How long have you been a member of this club?
My grandsons are about 19, so probably about 15 years, I guess, something like that.
Wow, that's amazing. What would you say is one of the most challenging parts of being a part of this group?
Trying to get people to come.
What do you think the specialty is that each one of you can contribute to being a part of this group?
I'm not sure any of us have a real specialty now. There are some guys who are better at wiring, some guys who are a little better at doing scenery, and others just add to the labor force to help put everything together. I mean, everyone is valuable.
Thank you for that. It certainly seems like everyone plays an important role, and as you said, everyone is valuable.
And, you know, if you're not doing what you're considered to be good at, you can fill in and do something else. And we all do that. So that's just kind of, you just do what has to be done, and is the best all of us can do.
Are any of these pieces handmade, or are they store-bought, or did you all make any? Or
This track is commercial store-bought. This turnout I made myself.
Wow.
So this it saves a lot of money to make them yourself if you can. And I got a kit that I just set the track down into the slots, and I end up with a turnout when I'm done. So it works pretty well.
Yes, it does. It looks amazing.
Everybody does a pretty good job of detailing their efforts. The scenery, everybody has different skills, and you can see the different type of scenery that people built. You know, and some people specialize in scenery. My specialty is the track work.
Hi, I'm Mike Harris. I'm with the Visalia Electric Model Railroad Club in Visalia, California. And I'm here to talk about model railroads. I've been doing it for probably 40 years, really enjoying it now with my grandsons, and it's really fun. I want to explain the different scales this morning, and they come in all different sizes. This one here is an in scale, which is probably next to the smallest. They have one that's a little bit smaller than this, but this is one. And then from in scale we go to HO scale, and that's what this size is. And you can see the difference size-wise. And as we go on up, we have O gauge. This is twice as big as the HO. This is why it's got the O, and then HO stands for half of O gauge. And then the big guys, they call the G scale, which is the garden size. And these are big enough that some of the folks have them out in their backyard, and they run these. This is the G scale, and a lot bigger and more detailed, and really to the really realistic. The reason I got into model railroading is I really love it. My background is a railroad. Worked for the railroad for several years, and then got into the modeling railroad with like I said earlier, with my grandsons. So we're talking about model railroading, but also a lot of the folks get around the railroad to actually see what they can model and stuff. But when you are around the real railroad, you have to remember that they are very dangerous, and you need to stay a safe distance. And you never know, any time is a train time. You may think that track is not occupied and there'll be a train coming. They're very quiet, they'll sneak up on you. But if you are around trains, you need to stay away from them, and they're very dangerous. Do not throw objects at the train or put stuff on the track. That little piece of penny or whatever can actually fly out and hit you. Always remember, trains are very, very dangerous, and they're not to be taken for granted and played around. So, actually, I started model railroading. My dad and family all were a railroad family, and we brought it home. And I remember as a small child having a train set running around the Christmas tree, and that's really how it kind of started. I still have the first little engine that I had as a kid, and it grew from there. I ended up going to work for the railroad, and that made it, a hobby. Was really, it was part of my work, and I just love all facets of the railroad, the history, and what it means to this country, of how it's developed, things were developed. Trains were very instrumental in developing things here in this country. First of all, a lot of people don't know your time was coordinated and synchronized from the railroad. They went from wagons to trains. Well, trains actually weren't on time. In other words, you have to be at a certain point at, say, noon, and another train's coming the other way, and he may have to set in a siding. So they wanted a consistent time, and they went to the different time zones so that everyone working on the railroad knew the exact time, down to the minute. It had to be all synchronized. So they had a big meeting in Chicago, and basically they set up the time zones, and it's all synchronized with the railroad was very instrumental in getting that going. And then because you would go to one town and it may be 10:30, and it didn't really matter if it was 12:30 somewhere else. They tried to synchronize and put all this together and one time. They were instrumental in opening up this country. In other words, the cities actually scammered to get the railroad to come to their town, because it meant that farmer now could get his product in Chicago within a couple of days instead of weeks. It really sped up the economy as far as getting stuff to market, and then the raw materials were be able to move across the country to different factories and stuff that were maybe out on the West Coast. There was no airplanes and stuff like that, so it opened up passenger service where people could get on a train and go to Chicago and be there in a couple of days instead of 3 or 4 weeks on a stagecoach. It was instrumental on developing the travel. Travel was really speeded up. Yes, periodically I ride a train once in a while. I love riding trains. I've gone with my grandson. About 3 years ago, my wife and I went all the way back to the East Coast. We were gone for 5 weeks. Went on the train all the way to Boston and had a sleeper, slept on the train, ate on the train, and then came back and had just a marvelous time. Real nice travel. It's again, it was time. It took time. We didn't just have a 2 or 3 hour flight that you have on an airplane. It took us a couple days to get back to the East Coast, but it was fun. This was all built before me at my time. This layout is probably about 5 years old. A lot of this is obviously, we didn't go down to Walmart and buy it. This is all handmade. Different people from the club have actually laid the track, built the buildings, and then these buildings are put into place and stayed. All the electrical is wired underneath. That's another thing that folks don't see. But there is a lot of time that has been put into this layout that a lot of the members are no longer with us. There's a couple that have passed away, but we still have their memories here and can see this on the layout. A lot of the members have their own rail cars and passenger trains. Work together, and they're basically standardized. In other words, they're one size, and obviously I can't run this guy on this same track. So basically, this layout is mostly HO, and they have to match up with each car. They have to be the same. So that's the standardized that they've done there. We put up this layout probably 3 or 4 times a year. This last year we weren't able to do it because of the virus, obviously. And this is actually the first time we put this layout up this year, and probably won't be able to do it until next year. So we really want to thank the library for the opportunity to come in and set this up and shoot this video, because it is very a lot of, in some cases it's artwork. You look at some of these buildings and stuff, and they are very, very detailed and realistically done. A lot of work, a lot of man hours. Okay, what they've done is we have different hinges and the legs underneath, and this actually folds up into 5 pieces, large pieces. And we have a medium-sized utility trailer that once this is all folded up, it's all on these fold up and they're on wheels, and then we're able to roll them into this trailer, and then we store the trailer. And then when we go from one place to another, we bring the trailer out and then dig everything out. It takes about probably 2 to 3 hours to actually set this all up. It's quite complicated in some cases. They have to match, the track has to match up, and we have little sections of track that meet up. And we've also found that some facilities, the floor may now be as level, and trains don't like unlevel floors. They have to be pretty much level so that they can run properly. So it's a challenge in some places that we've set it up. So, but we have an awesome group of guys that go around and do this, spend a lot of time and showing this layout off. And we've had a lot of comments. I've had a lot of people come up and say, "Oh, you've brought back my childhood memories of used to." It was very common for everyone had little trains to put around the tree or whatever. And it's built a lot of memories for a lot of older folks. I'm doing that now with my grandsons. They come. I'm up to 3 grandsons, and they come in the house and it's, "Hi, Grandma, Grandpa, let's go to your train room," and it's a lot of fun, and it builds a relationship with my grandsons as far as we're in there playing around. We were in there for a couple hours and really enjoy it. A lot of the buildings can be removed and put on different places. But basically, it's they're basically in different spots because maybe there's a switch where that item is serviced or whatever, but it's pretty much the way it is. Being able to run trains, the track, the track work, it's has real wide curves, so the train looks more realistic that way, and I enjoy seeing the trains run on there. And then being able to blow the horn and turn the lights on in the train, and very, very realistic. It's they sound very much like the real thing. The technology over my 40 years has just leaps and bounds. It used to be you just put 12 volts to the track and you ran a motor. Now they have decoders, and we can actually blow the horn and turn the lights on. I have one locomotive personally at home that has 20 functions. It'll do 20 different things. You can turn the lights on, and it's all done through electronics. The electronics, they've taken that one step farther in the model railroad, and they have, some of them even actually have cameras on board, and you can actually see the train as it goes around the layout. Very realistic. It's very fun to share your hobby or your love of trains with other folks. Me being from the railroad, I get a lot of questions from the other members that have not been around the railroad. It's like they'll ask me different things about why this engine does this and why this sounds like that, and it's a joy to me to be able to spread my knowledge to these folks, and so many of them strive to be so realistic, and they're very confident as far as making it as realistic as they can. So they actually ask me a lot about the lighting and how this and that, and sometimes it's hard for me to remember color schemes and stuff like that, how this was painted. But it puts me on my toes too, as far as doing that and helping others, increase their knowledge of the railroad and the model industry, the modeling railroad, and it's really a joy for me. By the way, I am dressed up in a engineer's uniform. This is basically what the engineer used to drive, or he used to dress up on the steam engine. They were very dirty and dirt and everything, so they would drive with overalls and always had a hat to keep the sun and the protection off of their head, and that's basically what I've got on. And I can remember as a small child going down with my dad with the railroad and seeing the engineers walk into the ready room dressed up in the overalls and the shirt, and then my dad, when I was real small, my mom he would wear a hat like this, and I can remember my mom putting it on a coffee can and pressing it, and then going to work with that hat all shined, and they were very proud. It was a very proud industry of what they were doing. They were helping people move freight and doing stuff to help the communities. The history of the railroad and how this came about, and brings back a lot of my memories. That's probably the biggest. As a child riding on the train, passenger trains, that not very many of them out there anymore, but it brings that memory back, and being able to share that with my grandsons and my son too, and I basically love trains all the way around. I love the big ones and the little ones, and if it has anything to do with the railroad, I've got my finger in it, and again, the knowledge of learning and stepping out and broadening my knowledge of the railroad and how they work with this country and the history of it. Probably the biggest challenge is the electronics of getting an engine to work properly, the frustration of working on something for a long time, and then all of a sudden you bring it to show off to your fellow guys, and it doesn't work. It doesn't act up right. It's like, maybe just a little wire in there was off, but somebody else will drag out an engine, and you're happy again. It's just the joy of seeing that. But yeah, there is the electronics and the wiring is probably one of the biggest challenge, and it's changed so much over the years. And some of the little programmers and little things that you basically take for granted on other things. Well, you want it to work right on the model railroad, and sometimes it's been wired wrong or not. We are very proud of it, and a lot of work, and it's a very fun hobby, and I really encourage you to get into it if you've thought about it, and it's a fun time. We really enjoy it.